Hello YouTube. In this video I changed the rear bushings of my Lexus IS300. I did not remove the subframe because one of the subframe bolts was frozen shut, and I knew that if I try harder then it definitely will break off. Also, 4 years ago the subframe was already removed and poly bushings were installed for the subframe and also differential. So maybe this video is more interesting to those who are not able to remove the entire subframe, or they don't have the need for it. Maybe they only want to change some parts of it. My recommendation would be to remove the entire subframe when you're doing this job. The main difficulty when installing these poly bushings for the upper and lower control arms will be that the poly bushings fit will be extremely tight. Let's just say that you will have to use a big hammer and wooden blocks, and it looks like there is no freaking way these bushings will ever fit in there. This is not so much how-to video, but rather I was filming the parts that were maybe more interesting to me. I hope you enjoyed the video. So initially I knew I have trouble only with the rear upper bushings, so these two, yeah. So then I was like, oh yeah, I'll just change the both lower and upper control arm bushings, and that's it. So I took them out, but only once you actually remove all of these suspension parts, you're able to see how in what kind of state they really are. So for example, this one, like obviously now it's a bit broken, I've been messing around with it, but this one is super loose. So it's not clunking yet, but it's definitely makes sense to replace this as well. Then it turns out that this arm that goes from here to here, that this bushing was all cracked. This bushing was almost gone, but when it was still everything attached to the car and you tried to like move it, and I even used like a crowbar a bit, then it wasn't really clear how good or bad it is. So this initial job of only replacing the inner bushings of the lower and upper control arm has turned into replace all of the bushings. For the replacement bushings here, I will just use regular rubber bushes from aftermarket. I will not be using like some fancy racing polyurethane, but for these inner control arms, upper and lower, I will use these poly bushings. So what I ended up using is this three-legged puller, and then a bolt with a like dent in the middle. I heated up this outer brace and then kept pressing with it. And I used like this metal plate here to hold it to protect the rubber from, or prevent the rubber from catching on fire. And of course be careful not to set your axle boots or something on fire. That's how it comes loose. I have a 40mm inner diameter here and 44 inner diameter here. It's very nicely pressed in, equal on both sides. I had also trouble with my this sway bar inside of here. They were so seized up that I tried everything, but all 4 of them broke and I had to drill them out. But luckily on top there is enough space that I can just put a nut on top and new bolts in here. For the sway bar I used M8 nuts, 30mm length. So it's a bolt, washer, nut, and the nut is this, has like this plastic thing inside. This is dropped through the top, so like this, and then the clip is in the bottom here. Here you have a bushing. This one I cut out. You can either cut it out or you can burn it out. So this was definitely faster than burning. Like this drilling and stuff takes quite little time, and it's also not so nasty. So this side is more interesting. This is actually not one single bushing, it's actually made up of two sides. And now you just go around and this should come out. I'll only heat it up so it would come loose. I'm not trying to burn it out. This little motivation will make it come out faster. Small edge already actually started to come, but maybe this will make it a bit faster. Something like this in here. Now this is the tricky one. On this side we have nothing, this is easy. But on this side, these Flowflex poly bushings, they don't come with this metal part here. So you have to retain the original metal. So here I also drilled and cut the old bushing out. However, you have to leave in the old sleeve. This one I'm attempting to burn out. This is better to burn out because otherwise you risk damaging this sleeve here. Because here I had to do quite a lot of banging and whatnot, and in the end it's still covered in rubber. So I'll go burn this one as well anyways. I got the parts back from sandblasting and powder coating. Looks like new, and of course I marked areas which they shouldn't paint, so from here they didn't paint, or here. Same goes for the inside of these and inside of this. I got the universal bushing kit. This is what I bought, and yeah, without it installing, removing these would have been a pain. Control arm bushing, I used 26mm socket. The other one I'm trying to do with this kit. I would say pretty nice. Better because of the reach. The press has a problem that I need to keep putting stuff and adjusting them. When installing these ball joint bushings, be sure that you have to take off the bolt. Then you have to remove the boot. Then using a wire brush or some tool, make sure you remove all the paint from the surface and also from the other side on the inside, otherwise the C-clip will later not go on. Then I use the press to press it in. This lower one is bigger than the bushing. And now comes the worst part. You have to get the C-clip on here, which will be a pain in the ass. First, make sure it's clean, because if you have any debris in here, then it will not fit. Quite big screwdriver, and then one smaller screwdriver. Again, make sure they're clean. Then I prefer to put the C-clip opening to here, and then you will use first like one side, you will push it down and it will go over the edge, and then now it's a little bit over the edge, and then you will use the smaller screwdriver to just hold the tip in place so it wouldn't jump out again, and then you start to press with the screwdriver, and here a little bit angle it. That's it. So 2 screwdrivers. One you hold the edge down and the other you go around to make sure that it's actually properly snapped in. The best way to test this is to put it down and then try to pry up from the edges. Like if the string is properly seated, it will not pop out. If it's not seated, it will pop out real easy. If one of the sides hasn't like completely gone in, but it seems like it needs just a tiny bit of help, you can also give it a few taps from the side, and you can give it like love snaps like this. But of course, if it's not all the way seated, then giving these taps from the side definitely will not change anything. Find the bottom, grab it behind the hook like this, and then you can actually use your fingers to just go around and around, and then you can grab it from here and help it along, and that's it. So I have to press the new one out again. This is PTFE or thread sealant tape to avoid future squeaking. So I have never installed poly bushings before, so this will be interesting. Here I have some synthetic grease, only a thin layer, so the PTFE tape would have somewhere to stick to. And start wrapping with small overlap from the front, and of course try to keep the tape straight, but there is no need to put multiple layers, so just one thin layer. Now I'll loop the top of the tape as well. Since I wrap the tape this way, then I have to turn it this way when I'm putting it into the arm. Some loop to the inside of here as well. So important is not to let it bulge up. Just a small amount. When it bulges up, you have to take it out and start from over again, so I messed up. I keep getting it wrong, like it's coming loose from the tip as soon as I start to screw it in. Nope. Come on, why does it keep bulging up? It's so annoying. Oh boy. If you're doing this the first time, it's probably better to get more than one roll of this tape. Gentle amount of lube, and already immediately got messed up. So putting on this thing is not as easy as you might think. This was a fucking nightmare. I wasted fucking hours. If you just loop them, it takes you 5 minutes. This took hours. So it better not squeak. Already put back this bar here. When I was torquing these bolts, I used a jack to lift up until I could see that on this frame is a bit lifting. So this one is a little bit shaking. So this is now under load, so I can now fasten all the bushing bolts. 49 Newton meters, 49 Newton meters. Nut 108. When you're installing the upper control arm ball joint, then be very attentive that both this upper and lower ring are properly attached to the rubber. When I was putting in the cotter pin, I discovered that this lower ring had come loose, and in order to fix it I had to open up this whole thing because there's no way to get it back on the rubber without taking it all apart. 88, and the one in the rear, so that one is 74 Newton meters. 30, 110, 110, 110 Newton meters. When you're installing the lower arm, install the sway bar links here before you tighten the suspension, because this presses this metal together and then it's very difficult to get the sway bar links in here. 75 Newton meters, 79 Newton meters. Toe control 49 Newton meters here and 49 Newton meters there. So 44, 18 Newton meters. This is how it now everything looks like. I have been driving the car now for a while. It really feels like a new car. It's definitely worth it and probably good idea to really do all the bushings at the same time.